So, we come to the floor tonight through these Constitution hours, if you will. And we hope to, by them, increase the knowledge not only of this body, but also of the American public as well. And we do so taking a look at the intricacies and the nuances of the Constitution. And I think we also help to shed some light on the circumstances and the times that inspired the Founding Fathers to write our country's founding document. So tonight, we specifically want to spend some time talking about limited government and its role in protecting human dignity.
We began this Congress by reading the Constitution right here on the floor. We have come here this evening in that same spirit. I rise today to continue a conversation that used to fill the halls of this great building. There was a time in our nation's past when members of our Congress openly and passionately debated the interpretation of the Constitution. We are here tonight to renew that discussion.
So to understand America, you must understand our founding principles. To understand the Constitution and why government should be limited, you must then therefore understand also the Declaration of Independence. So the structure of the Constitution follows the principles and the arguments of the Declaration, where it says, of course, all men are created equal. They are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights. This great statement that we're hopefully all familiar with at the outset of the Declaration, a truly revolutionary claim at the time, is then what? It's followed by a list of complaints lodged against the king at that time, King George III. And just to spend a moment or two to go into this in a little bit more detail and to delve down into it, these then can be divided into three categories, corresponding with the legislative, executive, and judicial functions of government. So, to step back for a moment, the list takes up over half of the Declaration, and the complaints there specify exactly where their king had failed. And so, too, why government by consent is therefore necessary. Now, he refused to enact necessary laws, they said. Harmful ones took their places, they said. Judges entirely dependent upon the king's will were rendered mere puppets at the time. And when the king did act, he flooded American shores with soldiers and bureaucrats. Their complaints there were specific. The king suspended representative houses for opposing with many firmnesses invasion on the rights of the people, it wrote. It went on to say he obstructed the administration of justice. How? By refusing his assent of laws for establishing judiciary powers. It went on to say he was also guilty of what? Imposing taxes on us without our consent, and also suspending our very own legislatures and declaring themselves invested with powers to legislate for us in all cases whatsoever. Yet another complaint alleged against the king was that he, quote, erected a multitude of new offices and thereby sent hither swarms of officers to harass the people and eat out their substance. So, when all power is taken from the hands of the people and accumulated in the hands of a single person, or a single head, if you will, it breeds a similar power grab by who else? The bureaucrats, who have no job but to consume the productivity and resources of the people.
The Constitution created limited government, the purpose of which was to protect our individual liberties. Now, as I try and talk to my old students to try and sometimes define the term individual liberties because it becomes somewhat vague in the minds of people. I look at individual liberties as the concept that individuals have choices in their personal lives. It is not the role of government to pick winners and losers in society, whether that be socially or economically. That is our rights as individuals. It is the right to have choices in my life. You know, I look at the world in which we are, and it seems like all the time I'm given choices and options, even when I don't want them. I can pick a cell phone plan from a myriad of options that are there. If I want a breakfast cereal, there's a whole row of choices that are there. Even if I want Pringles potato chips, there are 16 kinds of varieties for me. The entrepreneurial world has understood that people in America want choices and options. That's their liberty. It is only government, especially here in Washington, that seems to see that one size fits all and mandates so that the government chooses winners and losers rather than allowing that for individual. It is only us that seem to not learn what is yearning within the soul of all Americans that they understood when they wrote the Declaration of Independence and then formalized the Constitution of the United States.
In our republic, the dignity of the individual citizen is paramount. It would be arrogant to believe that a few elite can discern and direct over 300 million souls here in America. I fear with ballooning government and near unstoppable deficits being run every year, we are dangerously close to abandoning the principles that brought us here safely thus far. As regulations infringe on nearly every aspect of daily life, human dignity is endangered. Those of us here this evening are ready to work against this tide, to return our government to its proper role of defending individual freedoms.
We're a system of government in which we look not to limit what government does to protect individual liberties, but to try and make sure that government does those marvelous things. And we have come to a period of time where economically and socially we are now in a period of distress simply because we forgot the original foundation of this country, the purpose of the Constitution, the joy and brilliance of limited government whose sole purpose should be to protect individual liberties, not for government to do marvelous things. If we restore ourselves to that purpose and reinvigorate the concepts for which this country was established, which I do believe to be the concepts of federalism and limited government here, then indeed we have a chance of restoring this country and solving our problems. If not, we face very dark and difficult times indeed.